Hakadosh Boker Or Masechet Menachot Daf Yomi Daf Tet Zayin Amud Aleph 16a1 starts the Mishnah. We're on the Mishnah on the top of the page. Pigel bakometz velo belevona. If a person right now came and he thought of Mechshevet Pigul during the time of Aktarat HaKometz, okay, and he didn't think about it during the time of the Aktarat HaLevona, or the opposite, belevona velo bakometz. So Rabbi Meir comes and he says Pigul, right? The entire korban becomes Pigul, and therefore they're going to be chayavim alehem karet, okay. So now he comes and he says, Chachamim come and say, no, Embo karet, there's not going to be karet, ad shifagel bechol hamatir, until there's going to be pigul in the entire thing, which is going to be permitter, in the entire permitter, which means also in the kometz and also in the levona. Umodim Chachamim the Rabbi Meir, so the Chachamim are going to admit to Rabbi Meir b'mincha chotev mincha kenaot, to do a mincha chotev mincha kenaot. This is the one of the mincha kenaot, remember, is kin'ah, sota. And minchat chotev was of the three sins that a person does, that it's going to be olev yored. Shim pigel bakometz, that if it's going to be that he was pigel bakometz, right? Shu pigul, it is going to be pigul, and you're going to be chayavim alav karet, right? Shakometz hu matir, because the kometz is going to be the matir. Shachat echad min akevasim. Le'echol shte chalot lemachar. If right now he came and he did shechita to one of the kevasim, to eat the shte chalot for tomorrow, for the next day. Hiktid echad min abazichin, or he comes and he's going to be maktir one of the bazichin, le'echol mishne asadim machar, to eat from the two of the tzadim for the next day. Rabbi Meir comes and he says, pigul, it's going to be pigul, chavim alev karet, and it's going to be chayav karet. Chachamim come and they say, Embo karet at shefagel bechol matid. There's not going to be karet until you're going to be mefagel in the entire matid. Okay, so again, we had the shne kifsei atzeret, right? And then we had the shtechalot, right? And you brought the bazichin, right? To eat one of the lechol mishne atzadim lechem epanim machar. Again, pigul, right? Even if it's going to be one, right? And according to Chachamim, you always need bechol matid, which is going to be the shne kvasim or the shne bazichim. Shachat echa min kevasim. What happens if you slaughtered one of the kevasim, leechol mimenu lemachar, to eat from it for the next day? Hu pigul v'chavero kasher. So the keves is going to become pigul, and the other keves, the keves hasheni, is going to be kasher. Leechol mechavero lemachar. You remember we learned this language yesterday about leechol mechavero. If you wanted to eat from its friend, from the other keves lemachar, shnehem ksherim, both of them are going to be kasher. Okay, very good. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav, says Rav. Machloket b'shenatan akometz b'shtika, right? V'et halevona b'machshava. The machloket between Rabbi Meir and Chachamim, we're talking about a case where you put the kometz on the mizbeach without any machshava whatsoever. That's what it means b'shtika, shtika, without anything. V'levona, and then you thought of the levona b'machshava to leave it for the next day, right? Or the other way around, right? The same thing. Okay, that you did the levona b'shtika, and in the comments we had the mechshevet pigul. Now, in both of the cases, the chetzi matir was without pigul, and you didn't think about, right, only the chetzi matir hasheni, the other one. And therefore, Chachamim come and they say, right, there's no din pigul. Okay, because there's no pigul in chetzi matir. You need the entire matir to become pigul. Aval natana kometz b'machshava. But what happens if you did the opposite? You first thought with the mechshevet pigul, which means you first thought of the kometz b'machshava, and then afterwards you put the levona b'shtika without thinking anything. Ledivrei hakol, according to everybody, it's going to be pigul. Shekol ha'oseh al dat harishona oseh, because whatever you do it on the first dot. Meaning, when you come and you say something, and then you're thinking about something, so your mindset is on that. So since you started on the left foot, everything else is going to be on the left foot. That is the shita of, right, Rav. Shmuel says, no, adani machloket, it's still going to be a machloket. Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan, adani machloket, it's also going to be a machloket between, right, Rabbi Meir and Chachamim. So Yativ Rava v'kama lehashmaita. So Rava was sitting and he said this braita. Eitvei, we're going to ask the following question. Vacha b'Ravuna l'Rava. Pamed one of these words, mikpitza, to do with kmitza. Uvmatan kli, or the matan kli, which is that you're going to put the kometz in a kli sharet. Uviluch, or walking with the kometz. Okay, because all of these avodot, there's no other avodah in the levona. So it comes out that you are going to be mfagel in the avodat matir shalem. Aval balo laktara, but if it was to do with the aktara, ונתן את הקומץ בשתיקה ואת הלבונה במחשבה, או את הקומץ במחשבה ואת הלבונה בשתיקה, רבי מאיר אומר, זה פיגול וחייבים עליו כרת, וחכמים אומרים, הם כרת, עד שיפגל בכל המתיר. קטני מיהה, we did learn though, נתן את הקומץ במחשבה ואת הלבונה בשתיקה, and it's פליגה. We did learn, we're making a diuk. If you put the kometz b'machshava, and then the levona b'shtika, it's still a machloket. Now, 1 second. You told me that was l'chul alma. You told me it was l'chul alma. Why? Because according to Aldat Rishonah, we'll say. So this is a question against what? Right? Against Rav. Okay? So, Aima, he's going to answer you. Ukvar natan et levona b'shtika meikara. No, 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 no. You already gave the levona b'shtika from the beginning. So it's not a proof against Rav. Rav said that if you start on the left foot, if you start with the psul, everything else is pasul, even though you did it b'shtika. He says that wasn't the case over here. So shte tshuva b'tovar. So says the Gemara, I could push that off with two things, two questions. Chada, number one, the right, if it's going to be like that, so then that's the first case then. You're giving me another case. That was the first case. You're first giving b'shtika, and then afterwards you're giving b'machshava. Ve'od, and furthermore, Hatanya, we learned, achar kach. It says that you gave the kometz b'machshava, ve'achar kach natan televonu b'shtika. If you say achar kach, means afterwards, not before. Wait, no. It was before. What before? You said afterwards. So Tirgema Rav Chanina. Rav Chanina comes and he says, B'shte deot. We're talking about two different people, which means first was the Kohen Echad doing the Kometz Machshava Pigul, and afterwards it was the Kohen Sheni that was doing B'shtika. When you have two different people, we don't go after the original mindset of what you had, but it's two different entities. They're two deot, two different people. When it's two different people, we don't say that. Tashema, we're going to try to bring another question now on Rav. But one of these words, right? Only the blood which is going to be put on the outside of Mizbeach. For example, the 43 of Yom Kippurim. Remember, on Yom Kippur, we're going to do 43. Okay, or the 11 of the Parakol Mashiach, or the 11 of the Parelem Devar Shel Tzibur, Pigel, if there was Pigul first, whether it's going to be the first group, second group, or third group, Rabbi Meir says it's going to be Pigul v'chayvim alav karet. Chachamim come and say, Embo karet ad shefagel bechol matid. It's not going to be karet until you're going to do Pigul in the entire matid. Ktani miha, we did learn though, Pigel bem rishonam mishnam shlishit, whether you did the Pigul in the first, second, or third one, and it's still going to be a machloket. So you see from here, that means even though if you did Pigul in the first one, we don't say that automatically then the second one and the third one follows suit the first one, so that's against Rav. Rav said that if you started with the left foot, everything else goes pasul. Here you don't say that. And now you're going to tell me Achanami that is correct. That it's talking about two different people. That's good according to the Mandamar that you could have two different people. But according to the Mandamar, which is not in the blood of the par, what are you going to say then? Because you can't say then it's two different people. So how do you say it then? So Rava says, what are we dealing with? You did pigul by the first one, you kept quiet in the second one, and then you do pigul in the third one. Tamrinan, that I would have said, he said, if you're going to tell me so then why do you have to think about pigul in the third one? Meaning like this, if you started pigul and then everything else follows suit, there's a svara to say you start on the left foot, everything is the same. But if you did pigul in the first one, kept quiet the second one, and then again pigul in the third one, why did you have to do pigul in the third one? Anyway, you were thinking about pigul. So obviously there's something here that doesn't make sense, meaning that you're not doing everything pigul, but then why did you have to do it again for the third one? So Matkif la Ravashi says, Midi shatak tani, where does it say anywhere that he was shatak? Ravashi comes and he says, Chamaskinan, Kegon shepigel barishona v'shniya. You did pigul in the first one and the second one. The Amninan that we said is Salkadaitach. If you're going to say Kol al dat rishona, we'll say that you're doing it according to the first dat. Medar pagulu b'shniya lamali. So why did you have to do pigul in the second one? Right? So he says, right? At Zainamubet, right? He says over here, 16b. V'ha ben ktani. But it says that it's between one and the other, meaning between the first one and the second one. So it's mashma that it's one of those groups, and not that it was in both of them. So Kashya Bemet, this is a good question. According to Shtat Rav, this is a good question against him. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara. Amar More says, Rabbi Meir comes and he says, Pigul v'chayvim alev, right? Chayvim alev karet. We just said that if somebody came and they did, right? They did this, it's going to become pigul. Okay? So he comes and he says now as follows. So he says, Rabbi Meir says it's going to be pigul and chayvim alav karet. Michti karet lo michayev he says it's not going to be mechayev karet ad sheikrevu kol hamatirin until it's going to be right until they're going to bring all the matirin. Damar mor lo yeratzeh. What does it mean when it says that this korban is not going to be yeratzeh? Yeratzeh means that it's not going to be what we wanted, right? That means it's not going to be wanted by Hashem. So there's not going to be a kapara. Shekartzat kasher kach hartzat pasul. Just like hartzat kasher is going to be hartzat pasul. Just like hartzat kasher, you have to bring the entire thing in order to make a kosher. So to hartzat pasul, it's not going to become pigul until you bring the entire thing, which usually makes it kosher. The high in this case, given the chashiba, since you thought bifnim in the kodesh kodashim pasla, you already made a pasul. Kimi the Hechal, so when you go do it again in the Hechal, maya be'alma udekamadi. So he says you're just coming and you're just sprinkling water, regular water. So Amar Rabba comes and he says, Mashkach Allah be'arba parim u'be'arba seidim. We're talking about that you have 4 parim and 4 seidim, which means the Braita is talking about that you did the matanat adama be'ema, each one separately. Okay? Okay. So now says the Gemara. Okay. Rava comes and he's going to give another answer. Afilu tema par echad v'said echad. If you're going to tell me it's one par and one said, lefegul meratzeh. To do with pigul, it has to be that it's meratzot until it's done kadin. Meaning it's a special halacha, right? Because even if you're going to tell me that we're talking about a case where you did the avodot of par echad v'said echad, and therefore even though the matanot adam of the last ones are not kosher until the pigul, he says lepigul meratzeh. Fine. So says the Gemara, how many times do you sprinkle in Kippur? 43? I thought it was 47. Vatanya 47. So I thought it was 47 times you sprinkle in Kippur, not 43. So says the Gemara, Lakashi, it's not a question. Hakamandamar shemaravin likranot v'hakamandamar emaravin. Right? He says there's a machloket, right? Do you come and you mix it to the blood of the dam and the said, right? Remember that you bring the pot and the said. When you're going to bring the pot in the city, do you have to mix it in order to sprinkle it for the kranot or not? So now if you're going to mix it and then also do it on the kranot, so you have to add another 4. So instead of 43, it becomes 47, right? But according to the other one, you don't have to mix it. So then it's still 43. So says the Gemara, why did you say 47? It's 48. So lakashia, Kamandamar, Shirai Makvim, it all depends whether you say Shirai Makvim or not. It was used to take the Shiraim and pour on the Yisod. So that's going to be the last one, the 48th. So if you tell me Shiraim is Makvin, so that's the 48th. If you tell me it's not Makvin, it's 47. Okay? And again, the 47 is only according to the Mandamar that what? That you have to mix them up and then sprinkle it on the Kranot. Because if not, then it's 43. So we're going to ask a question. Pigel balicha beholacha. Mao, what's the halacha if you did the pigul only in the holacha? Not in the right. He says only in the holacha of the komets, but not of the levuna. Right? Holacha is the transporting. Right? That you're bringing it to the mizbeach. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan says holacha is like the kmitza. The Shaki says no. The holacha is like haktara. Meaning, just like the haktarat komets is only considered chetzi matir to do the pigul, so to halachot komets is also going to be only chetzi. But according to the Rabbi Yochanan, it's the entire thing, right? The holacha is like kmitza. So he comes and he says, Bishlam and Rashakish. I understand according to Rashakish, Ika nami holacha de levona, because there is holacha by levona. So therefore it comes out that the komets is not chetzi matir, right? Is only chetzi matir, just like the haktara. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, what's his svara? What's his reasoning? He says you also have to do holacha. So Rava says, "Ksav Rabbi Yochanan, kol avodah shenamateret, avodah chashuva hi lepagel alea bifnei atzma." He says any avodah which does not permit the eating or aktara, right? He says to do with avodah chashuva hi lepagel atzma bifnei atzma, which means right that it's going to make it pigul when you're doing it, even if it's not going to be mechashev izman avodat kli matira korban. So he says, Amaleh Abaye comes and he says, Haresh shchitatecha min hakevasim davodah she'ena matereti. He says, what about the shchita of one of the kevasim, right? Which is a avodah which is not materet. Upligin, there's going to be a machloket. Ditran, as we learned in the Mishnah, shachatecha min hakevasim. If he did the shchita of one of the kevasim lechol, right? Nishte. He says uplige, and it argues the Tanan we learned in the Mishnah shachad echa min kevasim lechol mishte chalot lemachar. If you did the shchita on one of the kevasim in order to eat from the shte chalot lemachar, hiktir echa min bazichin lechol mishne tzadim, and you did the aktara on one of the bazichin, right, in order to eat from the 2 stadim machar for the next day. Rabbi Meir comes and he says it's going to be pigul. Chayvim alav karet, you're going to be chayav karet. Chachamim come and say en bo karet, there's not going to be karet. Right? He comes and he says, Ad shefagel bechol matid, until you're going to be mfagel bechol matid. So Amaleh, he comes and he says, right? Mi savrat, do you think lechem betanur kadosh? Do you think that we're talking about now the shte chalot is going to be mitkadesh when it's going to be in the tanur? Shchitat kevasim mekadshale. It's only the shchitat kevasim which make it kadosh. Ve'haba lekadesh kebalat dami. So when you're going to become to be right lekadesh, right part of the korban, it's going to become to matir also. So Mativ Rav Shimi Barashi comes and he asks the following question: Acherim omrim, other people come and they say, Higdim mulim la'arelim. What happens if you thought for the mulim and then afterwards on the arelim, right? The korban is still going to be kasher. What does that mean? We're talking about the shchitat of the korban pesach. Remember that if you're going to do a shchita on the korban pesach for mulim and arelim, which means also for people that are fitting to eat it and also for people which are not fitting to eat it, right? It's going to be kasher. Higdim arelim lemulim. But if you thought of the arelim before the mulim, it's going to be pasul. The kaimalan, now we're going to be kaimalan, the v'chetzi matir pliged, and in the chetzi matir it's going to be arguing. So Elmaleh, so he comes and he says, Misavra, do you think dam betzavar behema kadosh? Are you going to come and tell me now that we're talking about the blood of the korban, right? Is going to be mitkadesh, right? When it's still in savara behema? The dam, what makes the dam holy? The sakin mikatshale, right? V'abale kadesh kebalatir dami. So the one that makes it holy, right? He's the one that's coming to be matir. So therefore, not like the holacha does not do anything, right? But everything else does do something. So this is right. It doesn't make sense. So Tashema, let's try to bring another proof then. But one of these words, right? Beknitza uv matan kli uviluch. Ma'ala viluch taktara. We're not talking about the iluch of the ktara. So it says, no, we're talking about the iluch of the matan kli. We're not talking about the olachot of the komets. We're talking about the olachot of the komets, the alicha, to put in a kli sharet. That's what we're talking about. Ihachi, if so, ki matan kli uviluch. It says biluch matan kli. It shouldn't have been matan kli, putting in the kli sharet, and then holacha. It should have been the holacha to put in the matan kli. So it says Gemara, look, actually, it's not a question. Tani achi, that's the way that we learned it. So balo laktara, balo lalecha mi baile. So why does it mean you're coming to the aktara? It's coming to the holacha. Falakashi, it's not a question. Given the holacha tzorech haktara, he since the holacha, the walking, right, the transporting is for the haktara. It's called haktara, even though it's not really haktara. It's only the holacha. It's only the transporting. Ela natalno to comments v'shtika holich mi baile. So it's a holich. So kasha, that's a good question, right? According to Shitat Reshakish, it's a good question against him. Okay, so iktir shum shum. If you came and you brought the shumshum, yeah, lechol shumshum, right? Which means the komets in order to eat the shiraim. So it says ad shekala komets kula, until right they finish the entire komets. Rav Chasta, Rav Amnuna, Rav Sheshat. One of them says pigul, v'chadamar pasul, v'chadamar kasher. One of them says kasher. Lema mandamar, according to the mandamar that says pigul, it's like Rabbi Meir. According to the mandamar that says pasul, it's like Rabbanan. And according to the mandamar that says kasher, it's going to be like Rabbi. So it says Gemara Mimai. Why? Dilma kalno kamar Rabbi Meir hatam. That's only if it's going to be, if he thought about it during the shiur shalem. Here he didn't think about the shiur shalem, right? We didn't have it because at the end of the day it was like mamash. It was like a small little sesame seed. It was nothing. That is going to be mutar, right? That you are going to be thinking about the entire matir. It's going to be pagul. That you didn't fill it up. You weren't mashlim it. But here the other maliyah that you were mashlim. And the pasul is going to be pasul. According to the mandam pigul, it's according to everybody. According to the mandam pasul, it's also according to everybody. And according to the mandam kasher, it's also according to everybody. How could that be? Mandam pigul divrei kol kasavar derech achila bekach v'derech haktara bekach. He says that even if it's going to be a small amount, that's the norm. Remember, whenever something is the norm, even if it's going to be not like the regular thing, but that's the way that you eat it, or that's the way that you do something, so then that's going to be a pigul according to everybody. According to the mandam and pasul, it's according to everybody because it says derech achilato bekach, but it's not derech haktarato bekach. V'availa, and therefore it's like a mincha, which was not done the ktoret at all, right? It wasn't done the huktara, it wasn't brought to burn. Mandam kasher, it's according to everybody also, derech haktara bekach, then derech achila bekach, but it's not going to be derech achila bekach.